人民警察这是，你们看看，
It's all covered in today's China Truths.
Labor rights uprisings incessantly shake the core of the CCP from 2023 through 2024. According to data from the China Labor Bulletin, the country is in turmoil, with a staggering increase from 741 to 1,178 cases of worker rights violations between the first half and the latter months of the year. Throughout December 2023, the relentless unrest echoes across cyberspace. This chaos knows no bounds, with Guangdong province leading in factory labor disputes. Brace yourself for the seismic shockwaves of China's worker rights revolution. The CLB's latest report, as of December 27, documents a staggering 1,919 incidents, breaking all previous records. However, this revelation only scratches the surface of the widespread discontent. Throughout the year, the fervor of workers' discontent has burned unabated. As December 2023 arrived, protests for labor rights had become an all-too-familiar sight. Notably, on December 19th, a collective outcry erupted at Yingsai Hardware Products Company in Dongguan, Guangdong, as workers protested en masse over wage disputes. These incidents underscored the widespread discontent and growing unrest among China's workforce. Yandizhou, Shandong Province, from December 19th to 22nd, more than 2,000 workers took to the streets following the closure of the state-owned Yangmei Puwang Chemical Company subsidiary, leaving 2,500 people without jobs. Instead of implementing a proper layoff plan, the company resorted to wage cuts and unpaid leave, further fueling the flames of anger and frustration. In Yongji City, Shanxi, from December 22nd to 24th, over 900 workers from the bankrupt Yongji Chemical Fertilizer Plant, a subsidiary of the state-owned China National Agrochemical Corporation, staged relentless protests both inside and outside the factory premises, demanding fair settlements in the face of bankruptcy. The bankruptcy of Shanghai's B.Y.D supermarket on December 24th and 25th added to the turmoil, with 800 employees protesting against an unjust compensation plan. Meanwhile, on December 27th, in Shenyang, Liaoning, employees of the state-owned China Communications Second Navigation Bureau Municipal Construction Company rose up to demand their overdue wages. Undoubtedly, the boiling anger fueling this immense uprising for worker rights undeniably stems from the imminent collapse of the entire Chinese economy, an undeniable truth that cannot be brushed aside. As private enterprises crumble under relentless state pressure, the CCP's merciless crackdown on industries only serves to worsen the situation, destroying trust and suffocating domestic investment. State-owned enterprises, corrupted by unchecked power and insatiable greed, have left nothing but devastation in their wake. Massive layoffs have pushed the social security system to its breaking point, forcing countless individuals to fight tooth and nail for their basic rights to survival. This recent surge in worker activism across mainland China, perhaps the most potent and widespread to date, screams of the dire state of affairs, pervasive poverty, shattered dreams, and an urgent outcry for fair wages and dignified work. "500 mass protests per day in early 2024, showing Chinese anger towards the CCP regime. On February 2nd, Taiwan's Central Broadcasting Station revealed a staggering surge in mass protests across China, skyrocketing from several thousand annually to over 100,000, with approximately 500 protests unfolding daily. Associate Professor Jean Kai-Lu from Fo Guang University's Department of Public Affairs underscored the dramatic escalation, citing a rise from 8,700 incidents in 1993 to 10,000 the following year, culminating in 60,000 by 2003 and exceeding 90,000 by 2009. The 2013 Blue Book grimly suggests that these numbers could potentially soar into the hundreds of thousands each year. These figures paint a stark picture of mounting public discontent, prompting the authorities to deploy extensive measures to suppress dissent and uphold social stability. This authoritarian response, however, has only intensified societal tensions, revealing a deeper rift within the populace that surpasses external threats. On the same morning, Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese Communist Party, infuriated observers by visiting the Pingjin Battle Memorial and lecturing about cherishing the hard-won red land to his entourage. Many see this as a callous display of indifference amidst mounting societal unrest. With Evergreen's collapse looming large, questions abound about the fate of 6 million homeowners left in limbo. Meanwhile, the stock market nosedives, accompanied by a staggering average of 500 daily mass protests demanding nothing short of the overthrow of the Communist Party and the removal of Xi Jinping himself. Hidden truth of protest massacre figures, CCP's enraging secrecy. Cover-up of feminist movement spanning from 2012 to 2015. Since Xi Jinping's ascent to power in 2012, China has witnessed a further erosion of freedom of speech and the right to peaceful assembly. Under his regime, online censorship has intensified, and non-governmental organizations face tighter controls, notably through laws like the Overseas NGO Law. This crackdown has made it increasingly difficult for activists and civic groups to organize protests on a large scale. Despite these oppressive measures, dissent persists. In 2012, a new wave of feminist activism emerged, characterized by street demonstrations and individual protests, often involving just a single participant. In response, the Chinese government launched a systematic campaign to suppress the feminist movement. This included smearing and harassing activists, shutting down gender-related groups in universities, and censoring online discussions on gender issues. The regime's oppression reached a new level in 2015 when authorities arrested and detained 5 prominent members of the movement. Despite facing relentless persecution, Chinese feminists refused to be silenced. They continue to advocate for gender equality through offline activities and international outreach efforts. Their unwavering determination in the face of adversity serves as a powerful reminder of the regime's egregious violations of human rights and the urgent need for justice and accountability. CCP has never officially revealed the details of the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre. The 1989 Tiananmen Square incident stands as a chilling emblem of China's relentless suppression of democracy and basic human rights. In the face of peaceful pleas for political reform, the regime unleashed a savage crackdown, revealing its utter disdain for dissenting voices. What's truly infuriating is the CCP's ongoing refusal to acknowledge or address the barbarity of that day, perpetuating a cycle of grief and injustice that continues to haunt the nation. This massacre serves as a stark reminder of the regime's ruthless pursuit of power, even at the cost of countless innocent lives and shattered dreams. As if the horror of that day wasn't enough, the true extent of the tragedy is obscured by the regime's shameless manipulation of facts. While the Chinese Red Cross offers conservative estimates of between 2,600 and 3,000 deaths, leaked internal documents tell a much darker tale. According to information uncovered by the U.S. Consulate General in Hong Kong, the death toll surpassed a staggering 10,000, with nearly 30,000 others suffering injuries. Even more damning are reports from the Southern Theater Command, revealing a death toll that could potentially exceed 40,000 lives lost. Yet, in the face of this overwhelming evidence, the CCP shamelessly continues to deny any wrongdoing, peddling the ludicrous claim that no deaths occurred during the Tiananmen Square massacre. This blatant disregard for the truth only adds insult to injury, fueling the flames of outrage and ensuring that the wounds of the past remain unhealed. It's a stark reminder of the regime's callous disregard for the sanctity of human life and the urgent need for accountability and justice. JASIC workers in China endure lung diseases, while the CCP's compensation shamefully falls short of covering their losses. In 2018, the JASIC workers incident erupted when employees at JASIC Technology, a welding equipment company in Shenzhen, dared to demand the formation of a union. However, instead of addressing their legitimate grievances, the authorities responded with heavy-handed repression. 3 workers were summarily arrested. Following this, protests by students, labor activists, and supportive workers were brutally suppressed, with further arrests and intimidation tactics employed. The appalling crackdown also targeted Marxist student organizations involved in the movement, forcibly dissolving them or subjecting them to intense pressure. The heart-wrenching saga of China's lung disease epidemic continues to unfold, with approximately 6 million citizens falling victim to the metal-laden dust, aptly dubbed love-save pneumoconiosis. In a stirring display of defiance, hundreds of workers from Hubei province took to the streets, demanding rightful compensation for their health afflictions. Despite the Shenzhen government's attempt to appease with some compensation, including a maximum sum of 220,000 renminbi, it has been vehemently denounced by Gu Fuxiang, a vocal advocate for the workers. "We've sacrificed our lives for development. The government couldn't care less if we're sick or dead," Gu lamented, encapsulating the simmering anger and frustration among the afflicted. For Gu, the greatest anguish lies in the legacy of debt he leaves for his descendants. "Our nation has surged forward in the past 4 decades, freeing farmers from backbreaking toil," he proudly yet wearily states. "I wish I could explore the world instead of being bedridden. Unfortunately, my time on this earth is drawing to a close," he laments, encapsulating the profound heartbreak and despair felt by countless suffering workers. Gu's personal struggle epitomizes the harrowing plight faced by many. Resorting to borrowing money from a rural lending organization to afford medical treatment, he faces the crushing burden of debt, with his son guaranteeing repayment upon his passing. Despite receiving a meager compensation of 130,000 renminbi from the Shenzhen government in 2009, Gu deems it wholly inadequate. "The issue isn't a lack of funds. Shenzhen has ample social security funds. It's an ideological problem," remarks Pun Nai, a sociology professor at the University of Hong Kong. Yet, the government refuses to acknowledge responsibility, arguing that the sick workers are not native to the city. Behind the dazzling facade of Shenzhen's rapid economic ascent lies the untold suffering of the workers who built its towering landmarks. As the city eclipsed Hong Kong in economic output in 2017, its skyline glittered with symbols of progress, such as the Shenzhen-Hong Kong high-speed railway station and the Ping'an International Finance Center. Yet, the human toll of this progress is staggering. Many workers have been forced to borrow money from all available sources to cover astronomical medical expenses, all while struggling to provide for their families' basic needs. The stories of suffering workers have been systematically silenced to maintain social stability. Beijing's heavy-handed intervention and intimidation tactics have prevented sick workers from speaking out, with news outlets banned from reporting on the plight of lung disease workers from Hubei. This censorship mirrors a broader trend of political suppression in recent years, with sick workers' demands for compensation falling on deaf ears despite repeated protests. Meanwhile, a groundswell of support has emerged from young activists sympathetic to the workers' cause. Deeply imbued with the ideals of the Chinese Communist Party, they are willing to defy authority and protest for better treatment and protections for workers' lives. "You are the backbone of the working class," one protester exclaims, rallying workers at a factory. "We will stand in solidarity with you." However, the government swiftly clamps down on these protest efforts, arresting many activists and scrubbing their calls for justice from the internet. Despite these suppressive measures, the youth movement's message spreads like wildfire, resonating with discontented citizens across the country grappling with rising inequality, corruption, and materialism. The protests in Huizhou, Shenzhen, are particularly notable as they are organized by students from one of the nation's top universities. Since the bloody crackdown at Tiananmen Square in 1989, student protests have been virtually unheard of in China, making this uprising a potent symbol of defiance against authoritarian rule. As the struggle for justice and accountability continues to unfold, it serves as a stark reminder of the resilience and determination of the Chinese people in the face of oppression and injustice. In the decades following the crackdown, university students have been instrumental in perpetuating the party's economic and political agendas, focusing on mundane topics like work and family, while avoiding any critique of the single-party rule. However, as China's economic growth stagnates, party leaders are growing increasingly apprehensive about the potential infiltration of Western values into the minds of the younger, globally connected generation. This generation, more cosmopolitan and digitally savvy than ever before, poses a direct challenge to the party's traditional narrative of progress and stability. The party's heightened anxiety over the encroachment of Western ideals reflects a deep-seated fear of losing control, contradicting the CCP's narrative of relentless advancement and strength.